Hey, good evening, everybody. How's it going? It's me. It's Comic Crack. I am here with you for just the weekly wrap up that I'm trying to kind of maintain after our chats on Sunday. So today it's going to be a mix of some gaming that I've been doing, plus some comics I've been reading, and a couple of things that I picked up. So I think we'll probably start with the games. I just finished playing one of these. So when I was a kid, my brother and I, probably my brother first, more than likely, because he was into this kind of stuff more so than I was, had started picking up these books called Fighting Fantasy. They were Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson, who went on to co-found the Games Workshop. They, in the early 80s, 82-ish, they started doing these fighting fantasy books. And basically it's a role-playing game. It's sort of, so in some board gaming that I've talked about on this channel and my other channel, there's these paragraph style games. So as you're playing the game, Ares Magazine had a few of them. As you're playing the game, you're going to be referring to different paragraphs, and that's going to kind of take you along the story and force you to make decisions, sometimes do battle, etc., etc. So taking that idea and putting it into a book form, what you have is a bunch of paragraphs. I won't show you too many of them. A bunch of paragraphs, and as you're kind of finding your way through your mission, depending on what book you're reading, you're referring to these different paragraphs. So what's really great about these is the very, very simple system that comes with it. I blew up the sheet here. I found it online and blew it up so I wouldn't have to write in the book. So each one has an adventure sheet. This particular one is Armies of Death, and you get some soldiers with it. That's not normally what you get. Normally, it'll just look like, let's show you this one here, because I want to save that one till last. So this is Caverns of the Snow Witch, the first one that I tried tonight, which didn't last very long. I didn't get too far into it. So normally what they look like is this. You'll start with your skill, stamina, and luck. There's a spot for gold. There's a spot for jewels, potions, your provisions, and an equipment list. And then on this side here, you'll have a spot where the creatures and monsters that you encounter, you'll put down their stats. So far in the ones that I've tried out, it's an incredibly simple system, which is fantastic. You roll a d6, you add 6 to it, and that gives you your skill. You roll 2d6, you add 12 to that, and that gives you your stamina. You roll a d6 and you add 6 to that, and that gives you your luck. Hello, Rasa. How are you? So very, very easy to comprehend, really easy to control. So skill is kind of like your fighting prowess. Stamina is your health. Once it gets to 0, you're dead. Luck gives you the ability to, when you're attacking someone, if you roll luck and you're successful, your luck goes down by 1, but you inflict 2 extra points of damage on your enemy. There's various things that you might come across in the book where you have to roll on the luck table. And again, if you're successful, that's great. You always subtract 1 luck. There's opportunities where you can gain luck. They can't go, all of your stats can't go higher than what your initial statistic is. So you keep that. And it's so much fun. Yeah, Rasa, I went into my son's room because I remembered that he had these. I was putting up some pictures around the house, and one of them was going in his room, looking on his bookshelf, and saw these. So I had a bunch of these when I was a kid, and then we found a bunch of them in thrift stores in Valley Village. So there's illustrations in the books as well too. For about, this one has 50 cents written on it. There's another one that has a $1.99 price tag on it. So dirt cheap. When I posted it on Twitter today, Scott had mentioned that he looked on Amazon, tisk tisk, but even looked on eBay and said that they're fetching quite a bit of money, which is surprising to me. He managed to find some cheap copies on eBay, which is great, because I would just say, especially for those of us in North America, well, maybe not especially, because they were based out of the UK, Ian Livingston and Steve Jackson. So you may be really successful. There was a boatload of these. They then got reprinted through Scholastics, I believe. And then they had some offshoots as well. When I was going through some of the images today online, just looking at things, looking at covers, there's some that I remember and that he looked it up as well, 15 pounds on eBay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, keep your eyes out at like any thrift shops or something once things start opening up again. I haven't found a lot of them, but I did find, I did manage to find some over the years. So I believe they're out there without having to resort to eBay. Just looking at the covers, just remembering the books that me and my brother used to play, and just repeating them and going back and back and back till you try to find kind of the outcome. So the one that I just finished playing, out of the two that I played, this one is my favorite so far. It is phenomenal. This is City of Thieves. I think it's book number. This is one of the reprints. The reprints will have things like ads for the other books in the series, and it'll also have a list of all the games in the series. That's how you know that it'll be a reprint. I believe this is book 3. City of Thieves. No, maybe Forest of Doom. Oh, geez, who knows, right? I believe it was one of the early ones. It says first published in 1983, and like I said, I'm pretty damn sure the first book was 1982. So this is one of the first ones. This is one that we did have as a kid. When we were kids, and this is so good. I made it actually pretty far. So one thing that I didn't do when I was a kid, I mapped it out this time. So I started drawing myself a map. Yo, Weird Dad, how's it going, man? I started drawing myself a map. So here's where I started, into the gates of Port Blacksand. If that's gonna focus, probably not because it's so light. Focus on my hand. Focus on my hand. Anyway, I started doing a map. So I managed to explore quite a bit of the city and just kind of mapped my path as I was going and highlighted some points where I know for a future game I do need to visit those points. Made some notes on the back as well too for the final villain that I have to beat. So you need to find everything you need for this final boss kind of thing. You need to find within the city before you leave the city. I managed to leave the city, escape out of the city, but unfortunately I did not. I was missing one item, so I'm going to need to start again at some point and go back through it. But so here's a look at my sheet that I printed up. All of the battles that I had, all the equipment that I had. I was down to 6 gold at one point. I think it was up to like 50 gold or something. So it was so much fun. It reads really nicely. It's just a lot of fun. It's one of those things like there's always an option for, you see a back alley and you see a building down the back alley. Do you want to continue down the main road or go the back alley? It's just always worth it to explore every little thing. It's always worth it to try to talk to people before you have to fight them. But it's always worth it to explore all the time. And that's where the tricky part comes, because sometimes you'll get faced with a few options early on in the game. The first fork in the road, you have 3 directions that you can go. So those kind of things, it just makes it difficult. You just gamble and you just pick one and see what happens. So much fun. If you find these for cheap, pick any of them up. I think they did one superhero one. Oh, it's the power flash in there. They did one superhero one. That was weird. we're supposed to get a storm tonight. We're supposed to get a huge dump of snow. So we'll see what happens. If I just all of a sudden disappear, that's what's going on. There's one superhero one, a lot of fantasy type ones. They delved into some science fiction. They delved into a whole bunch of areas, but mostly fantasy. And like I said, there was a huge number of these books. So honestly, if you see any of them, give them a try. When I was looking online, one of the covers, Forest of Doom, I think, had a cover by Richard Corbin. I didn't see if he also did interior artwork as well, because like I said, all of the books come with some illustrations inside as well too. So that's kind of cool. Had no idea. I'm pretty sure we had Forest of Doom, but I know that it wasn't that cover. They had a different one. So that was that game. I'm still fuck. And by fuck I mean oops. Still reading through. I cut up all the counters. I've been watching some documentaries on YouTube for I Will Fight No More Forever. Still haven't got it to the table just because it's nearing Christmas. There's a lot of Christmas crafts going on. There's a lot of baking going on. There's a lot of putting together presents. So I just haven't had a chance, because a game like this, I do need to keep it out for quite a while. I do need to keep it out for a day or two. So I'm going to try after Christmas to get it to the table and sit and play it. The rule set seems fairly straightforward. The way the rules are organized in this is my first Compass game, I believe, that I've played, and definitely my first Paper Wars. I'm very used to SPI and Avalon Hill and the way they lay out their rules. I found the way these rules are laid out is horrible in this one. Even just for the smallest example, a little bit of backstory, a little bit of history, a little bit of information on the counters and the map, which is great. That's exactly the way it always goes. The next thing I would like to see is the setup. The setup comes in a section a couple of pages later in the middle of a section that doesn't really make any sense that it's there. I found that incredibly frustrating. So it's not a lot of rules in this game, but the way that it's laid out and the order that they put things. So I've already started scanning stuff and putting them together on the computer and printing out sheets where I'm putting some things in order for myself, and kind of I'll have beside me as kind of a cheat sheet. I don't think when we spoke about it before, I had a chance to show you the maps. So why don't we do that now? Great documentaries. There's a Ken Burns documentary on YouTube that's well worth watching. It's about an hour and a half, and it's called I Will Fight No More Forever. But it covers like General Custard as well too, and Custard Last Stand, but then goes into the history of the Nez. So I've been calling it the Nez Perce. The Nez Perce, I think, is the Nez Perce. Damn it. I had the pronunciation earlier. I apologize. So here's your strategic map, I guess. So it gives you the overall picture. You're going to be starting on this side of the map, and eventually you kind of need to escape into Canada up in this end of the map. You have about 30 turns to do so. I think by turn 25 is when you can start pushing towards Canada. When the army forces are entering a hex with Indigenous forces, they have to do a search. If they find Indigenous peoples in that search, then they go to one of the 4 tactical maps that are included here. And each of the tactical maps is for a different terrain. And then this is where the actual battle will take place. Oh, Damien, how's it going? So I think it's going to be a good one. Now that I've read more of this and I've watched a few things online, documentary wise, I'm feeling interested in playing this game. Like I said, I can't recommend the Ken Burns. I guess there was a series which I would like to watch, actually. I can't remember what it was called now. Early West or Out West or something, anyway, or maybe it was just The West. I don't remember. Anyway, there's a Ken Burns documentary. He did a jazz documentary that kind of people look to all the time. He's done a number of things, but that one is parts of it are up on YouTube, so check that out. So I think that was it for the games. The comics, just kind of a quick overview of things that Rasa and I spoke about. And like I like to do, just have a bit of a compressed video where I just highlight some of the things. There's a couple of things I didn't show off in that video either. It was in the same pile of books as, where are we going here? As these Moon Knights that I got from the Comic Addicts. It's funny because even during the chat there, Rasa, you and both Gore Vidal were saying that this one goes for quite a bit of money on eBay. When I was looking afterwards, there was quite a few that were dirt cheap, so I don't really know what's going on there with that. Even looking at the sold ones, there's ones that have sold for, you know, $2, $3, $4, $5 in that area. So I don't really know the full story with Moon Knight #1. Either way, it's not something I'm getting rid of. I do want to read it. It cost me a couple of bucks, and I'm really glad to have it. #2, and then #9, like I was showing already. So part of that same kind of group of comics, he had a bunch of indie stuff as well that I grabbed. But I guess we'll start with this one. The other one that we looked at in the chat was Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, the true story from Topps. Only have issues 1 and 2 from the 3-issue miniseries. I read issue 1 and loved it. I thought it was really, really great. The art is incredible. The colors are incredible. Really looking forward to #2. And then I'm going to have to hunt down #3 for sure. I'm hoping that the Comic Addicts will come through. And then the rest of these were just independent stuff. They looked interesting. I thought I'd give them a shot. This one, I believe the Kayfabe guys were talking about recently. Only 1 issue of it, though. Eastman, Talbot, and Bisley, Melting Pot. This is issue #4. And in the past, we had spoken about, it's just ridiculous. It's so good. We'd spoken about Corbin and how Corbin didn't seem to have anybody that had style similar to him. When I was flipping through this, there's a lot of similarities in Bisley's style to Corbin, with the modeling and the colors on the characters and stuff. Great series there. I've got a set unopened poly bags with the Topps cards. Yeah, these ones, they were all ripped open there. Those ones, rather, the Vlad ones, the Dracula ones. There was no cards, unfortunately. So yeah, there's a lot here that reminds me of Corbin, taken to kind of a darker area. Even the look of the face there has a little bit of a Corbin quality to it as well. But this is gorgeous. Yeah, Esteban Morado is really fantastic in those Dracula ones for sure. So this looks incredible, and it's one of those that I've seen from time to time out in the cheapo bins, and I've just kind of flicked past it because classically Bisley hasn't been someone that's done too much for me. Not that I hate him by any stretch. And looking through this, I feel like I need to give him another look because this stuff is fucking amazing. So yeah, I haven't read this one yet, but I've flipped through it a couple of times just to soak in the art. Definitely going to keep my eyes open for more of this. It might have been a 4-issue miniseries. I'm not quite sure. Either way, looks great. Iliad 2, The Discovery. Somehow he doesn't always use the Corbin in a way that's easy to read. Okay, so like in kind of his style and his layouts, is that what you're talking about, Damien? I mean, you know, this was a buck. It's from Micmac Comics, which on further look, when I went to buy it from the guy, when I went to pick him up, he did a search online already because he thought it might be an Indigenous-owned, anglicized version, but it's not. It is Canadian, though, right? Yeah. North Bay, Ontario, 1986. The inside isn't as exciting as the cover, but still has that kind of really naive art that I just love about these 80s indie books here. So looking forward to giving that one a shot. This looked like it might be fun. I know Aircell Comics. I've got only a couple of Aircell. This is Dead Walkers. Thought it might be an interesting little indie horror anthology, so gave it a shot. The interior doesn't look too bad. Did it look like it was one story? Yeah, so the other thing is it wasn't a series. It wasn't a kind of anthology, just one story in this one. I don't know if it's a continuing story. I haven't read it yet. I don't know if it's a continuing story throughout. I think I had a bit higher hopes for this one than it panned out. But hey, again, a buck, man. Give it a shot. The guy who I bought these from, Derek, when he knows that I'm watching, he always puts stuff like this out because he knows that if anybody's going to buy them, it's going to be me. So he always kind of, he'll throw out a bunch of X-Men, then he'll throw out a bunch of indie weird shit. And I'm the only one that picks them up. Greater Mercury Comics, another one that the Kayfabe guys have talked about. Dark Assassin. This one has the character Grips in it, which Jim has raved about in the past. And that's a pretty good back cover collage of everything. So there's the Grips title there. I have yet to see a Grips comic out there in my hunts, but I have a feeling they'll show up. Some pinup type art in the back. And another ad for Greater Mercury for a bunch of their stuff. And there you go. Some caped crusaders. And there you go. Oh yeah, this was it. This guy at the back here, Rasa. Let me go to it again. Was it that one here? Yeah. So we'll see. Again, $1. And this one, I think, yeah, this one impressed me the most out of them all. It's the Book of Lost Souls from Leadbelly Productions. And what year do we have on this one? So this is June 1991. Oh, the front cover. Oh, okay. This is June 1991. So that front cover caught my attention. The back cover did as well. And then having a look on the inside. I was talking to my wife about it, and she was saying, so, what do you like about some of these indie ones? Because I was just talking to her about, like, every once in a while we'll have a chat about comics, and this conversation was about resale and slabbing and all this kind of thing, and how some of these are just absolutely worthless. Nobody else wants them. And she kind of sees the comics that I had and goes, well, what do you like about them? And I opened it up to this book and said, this is what I like about them. Every once in a while you find these dirt cheap comics. There's these guys who potentially never worked in comics afterwards. They tried to get in on a little bit of a boom. They did some work, and they don't come from a cartooning background often. They kind of didn't work their way up anywhere. They didn't continue in the industry, and they put out some incredibly unique looking stuff. And this to me is exactly why I take a chance on some of these, because these look, this one looks great, or at least that first story looks great anyway. The second one isn't as impressive as the first one, but I just love this black and white here on this first story there. Incredible stuff. It's really incredible. Reminds me of Nate and crew from from Cave Evil, some kind of art that they might do with a comic that comes with one of their games. So that one I'm going to check out tonight, probably. That's on the top of the pile. So that was the small haul from that fine gentleman. I did want to kind of show these off again. We did talk about them already in the chat this weekend. These are local. When black and white comics have background color, it looks better and more cohesive. Yeah, sometimes the sparseness where you just have this really dark figure against some lines in the background that are supposed to be like, here's the room, here's the door to the room, here's a fridge. You know, it really doesn't work sometimes, but sometimes that kind of minimalist approach to the backgrounds is amazing as well too. So this first one, Matthew Dick, Matt Yathon, Punchy Comics, which I believe is Helly Schumann. Yeah, Punchy Comics, Helly Schumann. Out of these two, well, I love them both. I'm kind of leaning towards this first issue a little more. Really, really great. And I was saying it to Rasa too, like Winnipeg has quite a history of comics, whether that's because of Digital Chameleon that was based out of here, whether it's because of Styx Comics and Comic World doing some distribution for across Canada. We've had our hands in some artists. A friend of mine actually worked with Marvel just recently within the past couple of years, doing some art for a trading card set. A guy that's still in town here who I've talked about before did some time painting for science fiction magazines. Yeah, so I mean, we've got a stable of talent here that is really great to see it continuing and still putting out actual physical mini comics. It's great looking stuff, man. It's definitely more towards the digital end than I'm usually comfortable with, but I still really like the approach. This Matthew Dick really impresses me. I really should dig out Winterpeg and show that on the channel again, because he's got a very kind of Mobius approach to some of his stuff as well. So that's issue number 1. There's some more of Helly Schumann's work. And then even kind of the end paper design there on the front and back cover. That's a couple of the characters. And then issue number 2. I don't know, what do we got, 2019? So both of these were 2019. I don't know the status of this, if this is a continuing series, or if it was just these two, or if they have bigger plans. I do follow both of them on Instagram. I feel like both of them have been pretty quiet, both of them being Matthew Dick and Helly Schumann. I feel like both of them have been pretty quiet lately, so I don't know what the plans are for any of this. But I hope they keep it going. And I mean, it might be nice to see a bigger anthology, a little thicker, maybe double the size or something, you know, so that's cool. And then just briefly to kind of wrap us up here tonight. Oh, actually not to wrap us up, because just like when we were chatting, Rasa, I can't seem to find, I bet you they're up here. Nah, they're not up there. Boy, am I ever good at this. This area is so crazy messy. There they are there. Everything is out on top of boxes, and it drives me crazy doing that. But yeah, I'm not sure what the inspiration is for some of that in there. So Tecumseh, I finished, loved it. When I was talking about it online, somebody had mentioned Wilderness, and they raved about this, saying that these two books are their favorite out of anything that Truman has done. So I'm really excited. I haven't sat down and done any reading yet this week, just with kind of getting into the games and getting ready for Christmas and stuff. But this is a great look at Tecumseh, great look at this part in history here. It started out, the book itself started out a little weak for me, but it really picked up. And I mean, it's interesting to say something like that when it's based on a real person's life and kind of segments from their life. But I think that's part of it, right? You have to kind of do a good setup. You have to kind of introduce us to the world. And it just goes from there. And I just found his storytelling, I really just got into it probably, you know, even just a quarter of the way through. And it just picked up from there and worked incredibly well. Thought it was fantastic. I think his art is phenomenal. And I think the way that guys like him and Jackson tackle, especially Indigenous peoples and their history, I think is really, really great to see. They do seem to put a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of research and a lot of kind of dedication into this history. And it comes through for sure. Maybe we'll go here and then we'll end on that. So a few things that I read this week. I see that on the next Norse Mythology, that is it David Mack? He has a variant cover coming out for it that I think I might want to try to get my hands on. So We Live, this is issue number 3. I think Damien is reading this. I don't know who else is reading this, but this cover blows me away, especially after the lead up. First issue was really, really great in kind of setting the stage. It really balanced this much darker story, or at least hinting at a darker story, with kind of this real light, almost Miyazaki inspired cartooning that was going along with it, focusing on these small children. And it's gotten dark pretty fucking quick, because this issue is pretty dark, especially where it ends up. The last kind of couple of panels that you end up seeing that they hint at are incredibly dark. So I don't know where this is going. Like I was saying with Ross, my biggest concern with this book, I'm completely on board. I'm not dropping this. I'm here for the ride. I need to see what's going to happen. The one thing that does concern me is the way that they're tackling the stories in issue number 3 and number 2. Yeah, it really does. Did you read this one, Damien? Did you read issue 3? I think that there's a lot of story here, and in 2 and 3, especially in number 2, it really seemed to jump a lot, where I couldn't really keep up with what was going on. It felt like it was this idea of a montage in a comic form where it wasn't handled in the greatest way. There was nothing really explaining what we were looking at, and then the individual moments didn't really say too much. They showed some relationship stuff, but there was a couple of points in issue number 2 especially where I felt like I had turned a page and I had missed a page, because there was a part of the story I felt like I missed. This one didn't have it to that degree, but I felt it really did jump from this story to the last half of the book. It wrapped up really quickly, this first half, and it really felt like there was more to explore there that they didn't fully go for. That said, I still loved the issue. I still thought it was great, and I still really want to see what's going to happen, because, like I said, the ending of this one has just been a total what the hell is going to happen here, and incredibly dark. But again, the mix of that style of cartooning, so great. That is such a good book. Another one that's a really, really good book is Norse Mythology. And again, we talked about this on Sunday. I think this was a phenomenal issue. I've loved every single issue. When I got the first issue, I got it based on P. Craig Russell and Neil Gaiman. But for me, P. Craig Russell was it, for sure. And I was a little hesitant. I didn't know if I would like it. Once I finished that first issue, it was one of those things. I bought the first issue and it sat. Then I had the second issue and I hadn't read either of them. So I finally sat and decided to try to dig into both, and devoured them immediately and absolutely loved it. This one continues that. It's part 1 of a story here, again, revolving around Loki, or Loki is a major figure in it. And I think it was phenomenal, and another one that I'm looking forward to. I can't wait to see the next issue. Yeah, packing in too much. I think I'm following it all, but seems hard to see how it goes on like this for an extended run. And that's the thing. It feels like they're not taking the time to explore some of these things. So I don't know if if it's a mini series. Is it only supposed to be a 4-issue, 5-issue, 6-issue series? Because that's almost what it feels like. They've just got all of this that they want to say, and they just want to get it in as quickly as possible while they have time, because they don't feel like they're going to have more chance. I hope it slows down in the next issue to give us a bit of a breather. Batman Black and White issue #1. I can't believe I have a Batman book on my pull now, but this is a really good one. Well, another Batman book on my pull, because now I think this is 3 Batman books. This one was fantastic. I don't want to go into it too much. Have a look at the video with Rasa and myself. This one I bought based on Tradd Moore doing some art. I wanted to see what his stuff was like in black and white. As much as I love Tradd Moore, and I did enjoy it here, I found it really difficult to see what was going on at times. His black and white seems to be a lot of holding lines for color, just waiting for color. It's not necessarily done for black and white. It really felt like it was a story that was supposed to be in color that they just left the color out of. So I found that a little difficult. It was still a fun story, still a really great premise. The way he lays out a page, I think, is a lot of fun, especially when you get that one page filled with these ninjas or whatever, and Batman moving through the page. I thought was really, really nice. And then the added surprise was every other story in here was really good as well. Not only with art, but even just the stories themselves, I found I really enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to more of those. And then the reprints of the Batman adventures. And loved this issue. I mean, I don't know how many times I can say it, but I'll say it again. I love the animated series, and I am so in love with the art here. It worked. Every single page worked for me. I found myself kind of just grinning from ear to ear and kind of chuckling throughout it with some of the reactions. Things like there's just this really nice cartoony element that I think is handled really well. Even though the stories are fairly serious, there's still a real good take. Here we go. So he's practicing wrestling, and he has some guys lined up, and here's the guy who's saying, "Am I next?" And he looks just terrified with those couple of droplets. I thought Batman Black and White was an ongoing game, and yeah, this one does say issue 1, but now that you're saying that, I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure that it is, though. And then getting punched, and kind of, you can hear the bell. You can hear the cartoon sound effects with that one. I think it's really, really fun. Love it. And then you get stuff like this, like some badass Batman swooping down with his cape, and Killer Croc in the background. And when I was comparing it to the original, the only thing that it looks like they've blended out are the Ben-Day dots. So they've just cleaned up the coloring a little bit so you don't get those Ben-Day dots. But as far as I can tell, they haven't done anything else to it. So it's really stays true to the original. And the original still retains that kind of fun and really quality art. So I love it. I mean, this one I won't be keeping going on forever because I don't need doubles of every issue. It's just the early part of the run. There's a couple of issues that I'm missing. So I figured this is a good way to kind of fill in those gaps, support a new comic, that sort of thing. And if there's doubles like this one, I might end up giving it away on Halloween or something to some kids in the neighborhood. That was it for comics. I feel like there was something else, but now I'm not so sure. Anyway, that was great. Finally, when I ordered when I ordered this magazine, as loud as possible. Again, just slowly, very, very slowly chipping through this. It's a style of, there's a focus on a certain type of noise within this one that doesn't always work for me. And one of the things that doesn't always work for me is one of the same things that doesn't always work with me with like black metal bands, the ones that are truly cult with a KVLT, that take themselves incredibly serious and are incredibly kind of, they're into it a lot. Not all of these guys are into it to that degree, but there always is. When we've kind of toured, we played with, I'm planning to, Damien. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how tomorrow pans out. But I mean, it all depends on if there's something in the box for me to pick up. Like I said, I think I only have like, what is it, 4 or 5 comics now on my pull list. So I don't know what's showing up tomorrow. There might not be anything. I usually send them an email just to see, hey, because it's a bit of a drive for me. It's about a half-hour drive to get to the shop, which isn't excruciating by any stretch. But if I don't need to make the drive, I'd rather not, just to show up and see that there's nothing. But if there is something, I'll be heading down. There's a seriousness, like when we toured, there's a guy in here, the Rita, that talks about wall noise, which was a kind of subgenre of the subgenre. And we played with him a couple of times out west. Super nice guy and everything. It's just wall noise never really did anything for me. And there's this kind of edge or this seriousness to some of this style of noise that just doesn't always work for me, which is why I've kind of gone towards the kind of San Francisco, Oakland costume noise. There's more of a sense of, it's not that they're not serious musicians, because they're fucking incredible musicians as well. There's just there's a lot more of a theatrical element in it. There's a lot more of like the costume side of it. There's a lot more of this kind of silliness, you know what I mean? Where there's just a different sensibility to it that I can appreciate a lot more. I do understand trying to create a mood, and not every mood that you want to create is a happy mood or a interesting mood or a comical or whatever. Sometimes you want to explore those kind of darker emotions and things. I get it. It's just not a space that I can live in. So, but that said, it's a really great magazine so far with a good snapshot. When I ordered from them, I ordered a couple of tapes and a record and this CD by She Retina Stimulants, who have been going since, I don't know. I want to say 1991, I think, is when the first album came out on a Japanese label. I've listened to this now 3 times. This is a phenomenal noise album. And it creates this incredible mood, and every single track is a different mood and a different kind of texture. The first time I heard it, I was really impressed with it. Found myself playing it later on that same day, and then sat and listened to it with my son on the weekend. And it's the third time was even better than the first 2 times. It really started to really sink in. So I'm really impressed with this. She Retina Stimulants has a Bandcamp page, which I would recommend checking out. And I bought the digital copy of his first release. Haven't watched it yet, or haven't listened to it yet, rather. But it's a long out of print release. So I figured I'd get the digital copy and just check it out, see where he started. Yeah, we toured out east. I've done a couple of tours, just small ones. One out east, where we went to we hit Toronto, we hit Montreal, that sort of thing, and a couple of places in Ontario. We even played in Kitchener-Waterloo, because I knew some guys in Waterloo, because that's where I lived. So they set up a little show for us. I got to see some of my friends. We played in London, Ontario. We played in Hamilton. And then when we went out west, we played in like Calgary. We played in Vancouver. We played on Victoria Island. The one out west was fantastic because we went for this festival in Victoria. And there was one of the little festivals was in an art space, like an art gallery kind of thing. They showed films, etc., and it was great. But the other one we played was in somebody's house. Camping outside in the backyard, barbecues and drinking outside. When there was a set, everybody would crowd into the basement. So you'd be sitting at your table, and everybody was kind of really crowded around you, like literally shoulder to shoulder as you're doing your noise set. And it was an incredible experience because, especially at that basement show, everybody is really into it and everybody is really supportive. So the place is erupting with people and hooting and hollering and moving around. And it was such an amazing experience to play that. We came back, and when we finished our tour, we played one show here in Winnipeg at the Graffiti Gallery. There was a room that they had built. We asked if it could be cleaned out, a much smaller room, because the space itself is huge, and we wanted to hold our show in that room. So we brought, a Winnipeg noise show. It's not like you're getting a ton of people. The 10 people who came to see us, we crammed them all in this room, and we encouraged them to stand like right at the table with us to try to recreate some of that. And we rented a PA that we put in that same small room as we did our noise set. It didn't go over as well as it did when we were on tour. But again, when you're on tour, you're going to places where people online are into this kind of thing, and who have a core group of people who are going to come and see out of towners. So the support is really impressive. And again, because we were going for a festival, it was people traveling from other parts of Canada, and I believe the States as well too, coming up to see this festival, to be in this festival, not only to play, but even just to hang out and see it. So you're getting a bigger group of people that know what to expect and want to see something like that, right? Which makes a huge difference, obviously. They were great tours, and I mean, it turned into kind of camping, you know what I mean? I think we came back from the one out east, I think we came back with $100 extra in our pocket. The one out west, I think we came back, we broke even, you know what I mean? So we didn't lose any money. We weren't making bags of money, but we did okay. And it was just more about an experience, right? It was just more of, let's go and have a great summer. Let's go and hang out with some people that we've only kind of talked to online. And let's just go make a fucking racket. It was great. I can't say I've ever heard of Danger Music, not near Mint. But I mean, I imagine it's something along these lines that I've been talking about. These guys on the front, this Rudolf Eber from Runstern and Gurglestock, they perform stuff that's kind of considered the actionists. There was these Vienna actionists where it was like performance art, and it was about creating a moment. So Runstern and Gurglestock, which is Rudolf Eber, Joe Lanz, and I'm going to blank on the last guy's name. Totally blanking on it. Anyway, basically a trio of them. And Dave Phillips is the last guy's name. And they create these moments, these really intense performances where it really is about making things as uncomfortable and as challenging and pushing boundaries as possible. They do a lot of their recorded work is a lot of collage work, like tape manipulation, the kind of classic razor blade, and really putting together a piece of music based on these sound sources. A lot of them are sound sources based on the human body, whether it's like vocalizations or hitting and slapping or these kind of things. So it has this real intense element to it. Some of the recordings are just downright scary to listen to because you're hearing these sounds and it just kind of makes you think of something else that's going on. In their performances, they really put themselves through their paces when they do these performances. Especially a guy like Rudolf Eber, his whole thing is he wants to push himself as far as possible when he does these performances. They're characters for sure. I haven't read a lot of interviews with them. I thought that this one had an interview. It just has kind of a history of recordings from this group of people. So kind of goes through chronologically their discography and their performances and things, which is still really interesting, but I was hoping for an interview. I feel like I've prattled on for a hell of a long time. It's 50 minutes in. I was thinking to keep this at about 20 minutes. We'll just kind of finish this up. A couple of the tapes that I got, this Allegory Chapel. I had heard really good things about Allegory Chapel, and this kind of left me a little, it wasn't all that great, to be honest. It didn't blow me away. And then I took a chance on a tape called from a group called Ultra Spasm, which is more kind of harsh noise. And again, I listened to the first side. Did I even get into the second side? No, I didn't even start the second side. It didn't blow me away. I'm glad I gave it a shot. I'll listen to the second side eventually. But one of the good things about just kind of ordering from some of these labels is things are cheap enough, especially if you're ordering other things anyway, to get the shipping to Canada. He basically told me, he's like, listen, I can send you just this magazine and it's going to cost you X amount of dollars in shipping. If you want to throw some other stuff in there, I can throw them in. The shipping won't change. So when I added the CD, the record, and these 2 tapes, it was still the exact same shipping cost, and it gave me a chance to try a couple things that I wouldn't have before. So that made it worth it for sure. So that's it. There's other stuff, but, we'll save that. Thanks very much, everybody. Weird Dad, Not Near Mint, Damien, Rasa. Thanks very much for hanging out. I can't remember if I missed anybody. Apologies if I did. Thank you all. Have a good evening, and I don't know, we'll talk to you at some point. Have a good Christmas, everybody.